One, two, three. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 47 of the False Prophets podcast. 47. We're finally here. Three more until 50. I know it's been a while. I know it's been a couple of days. It's been a little over a week. I'm trying to do the 2 times a week thing, but sometimes it slips through the cracks. You know, what can I say? Your boy has a real job. All right. Your boy has a real job. Actually, he has 2 real jobs, and then this and stand-up comedy on top of it. So things get a little lost. All right. But, you know, so I missed a few things. There's a lot that's been happening. And first and foremost, I just want to say RIP, Miss Tina Turner. You know, she passed away and everything. And, you know, it's wild to see such a music icon kind of disappear like that. Like, you know, just be taken out of nowhere. I feel like, you know, me being a rap fan, I think you get so used to people dying. Unfortunately, you get so used to people dying, but someone who's such a true legend passing away is still a really rare thing. I was, you know, it's funny. I was on Facebook, maybe it was Instagram or something. Somebody was posting, they were like, get ready for more disappointment. And they started like listing down all the different people who are like mad old right now. You know, they were like De Niro's 80, you know, Pacino's 83, Cher's 77, you know, all this stuff. And yeah, man, you know, I never thought about it, but yeah, bro, a lot of these people are going to start passing away. I mean, didn't like Burt Reynolds, he passed away like, you know, 3-4 years ago and stuff like that. There's been all these big people passing away. And I think this is something that's kind of going to be not new, but a little bit more intense this time around. Because I feel like, you know, with my generation and with the slightly older generation, like my brother's generation, like Generation X, you know, these people born in like the 70s and like the super like early 80s and stuff like that, you know, we kind of started this new wave of like people being famous well into their elderly age. You know, and it doesn't seem like that because, you know, you're just accustomed to it. Like I was just born into it. Like, you know, being born in 1991, you know, Al Pacino was always famous. You know, Robert De Niro was always famous. But that's not how things were always. Like, you know, back in the day when, you know, we talk about people like Humphrey Bogart or whatever. Half of these people watching this probably don't even know who the fuck that is. But black and white movie, like famous actors, you know, Humphrey Bogart, you have like Clark Gable, like people like that, you know, they had their like 10 years, you know, the Aubrey Hepburns, you had your 10 years, your 5 years of doing things, and then you just disappeared. You know what I mean? Like, and that's really it. You know, now it's like, yeah, sure. You know, you have your 10 years, your 5 years of doing things. The young people kind of swoop in, they push you out a little bit, but you still are allowed to like play the grandpa on a funny show, or, you know what I mean? Play the weird uncle in a movie, and it's cool and it's funny. And it's like, you can still be this like legendary person. And I think because of that, we've had such close attachments with these certain type of celebrities and musicians and stuff like that, you know, that when they leave, it really does cause a gap. Like, where is the world going to be when Stevie Wonder dies, bro? You know, like back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, you know, people would have like 2 songs and you have like an album, and that was it, you know, and you toured Vegas forever and you were done. You died in relative obscurity. You know, back in the day, maybe the biggest one was like Sinatra, right? He could go on forever and keep making albums, but that was rare. That didn't happen a lot, you know. Now it's like Stevie Wonder, he can come out with an album today, and yeah, Gen Z kids aren't going to buy it. Okay, but some people in my generation might, you know, the big music heads might, you know, people in like Generation X and the generation before me might buy it, you know what I mean? Check it out, listen to it. The generation before, absolutely. You know what I mean? So it's just such a cultural gap when the person is gone. And it's a shame, man. It's a shame. I mean, she did so much with her life, and, you know, she made so much like great music, and it kind of sucks too, because, you know, with how much music is out there and how much just entertainment is out there on your phone, I think you kind of get overwhelmed by the new things always thrown in your face, that you kind of forget about the older like classics and the revolutionaries of a lot of things, you know. And so like, I haven't really listened to Tina Turner. Like, I know she's a legend. You know what I mean? I know she's a legend, but at the same time, I don't know that much about her. But I think that also stands to show how influential she is, and the fact that I know nothing about her. I know that one song, like "Rolling on the River," and and she's in the video, fucking like dancing and shit, and like killing it on stage. I've seen her kill it a million different times, right? But I know nothing about her, but I still know that. And I still know if I was to see her, I would be in awe of her, So respect to her. And I'm definitely going to start listening to her catalog and reading more about her and learning more about these people. Because I think people need to be appreciated more. Especially influential people need to be definitely appreciated more. Not maybe like worshipped in the way that people do with celebrity nowadays, where it's like, you worship them until you get tired of them and you take them down. It's not worship. You just need to appreciate who these people were, especially now with the building blocks of like technology kind of stacking up. Now we have AI, you know what I mean? And 20 years from now, it's probably going to be like how it was in the 1920s and the 1940s, where somebody has 2 songs and then they're disposable. You know what I mean? And, even if they don't want to work or they do want to work or whatever, you can manipulate their voice. You can change who they are through AI and through technologies and stuff like that. So no one's going to have any real resonance. Nobody's going to have any emotional weight to their name and to the things they create anymore. So I think we are right now in kind of this perfect timing of that. And I think right now is the time that we should appreciate it, because it will be gone. It will be gone very soon. And I worry about that. I mean, Ice Cube was even talking about it. He was on the Full Send podcast, the douchiest podcast on the world, hosted by the Nelk Boys. If you don't know YouTube, they're cool. It's an interesting podcast. They have some really, really interesting guests. But he's talking about AI, and he was talking about how he thinks it's demonic, and basically how anybody that uses his name, he's like, I hate, AI Drake songs. I hate this. I hate that. And anybody that uses it, to manipulate my voice and my things, are going to be sued. Not just them, but the software is going to be sued, and also the platforms that those things are on are also going to be sued. And I agree because I wonder, as Tina Turner's death happens, it almost signifies kind of the death of real culture and artistic creativity, in the sense that eventually there's going to be computers that are going to be able to make all these different things that we hold dear. I mean, even this, I'm not a guy with a bunch of viewers, but if I ever blew up, right, there'd be, I'd be some algorithm then eventually, that someone can punch in to their AI and be like, hey, give me a Phil Risden type rant. And then the robot would be able to do it, and I would be gone. And because of that, it's like, where does freedom of expression, get to live then? What even happens with it anymore? I often ask myself that, and it's so funny too. I was looking at, this is where I get most of my information from memes. I was looking at a meme, and it actually really did make me laugh though, where it said AI doing art while we do menial jobs for low wages is not the future I wanted. And it kind of hits home. It's like, why are these things making songs? Why are these things making TV shows? Why are these things, doing this? Meanwhile, the job at Amazon is still fucking open. They're going to come for that too. But at the same time, it's like, what the fuck? At the end of the day, like, creativity is the only thing that humans truly have that is truly ours. And I think we made a mistake of making a business out of it. That's the whole thing. I mean, creativity is something that's been there since humans existed, like since before businesses and society as a whole existed. We'd be like 10 of us hunting, gathering around a fire, right? And people would start dancing, or people would, get mud and draw it on the walls of a cave or something, you know what I mean? Or they'd start beating on drums or even rocks and make music. I mean, these are things that are intrinsically human, and for some reason the intrinsically human things are the things that corporations are trying to give away first. But I think it does go back to the fact that, you know, we've made human creativity a business. And I think it's essentially wrong. But at the same time, I mean, what do you want us to do? We're living in a capitalist society where everything has to be a business if you need to survive, you know, in order for people to be as amazingly creative and brilliantly creative as they want to be, they kind of have to make money off of their creativity so that they don't have to have other jobs. You know, like Kanye West couldn't have made My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy if he was also working at CVS. Okay. You know, so in order for him to have that kind of creative outlet, his only job needs to be just music and fashion and stuff too. But that's also a mentally freeing kind of thing. So it's a little different. But yeah, so I wonder where humanity is going to go. I wonder where humanity is going to go. Speaking of Kanye West, man, as you all know, he's back at Adidas. Our boy's back at Adidas. Supposedly they're saying that, you know, a portion of the profits they're going to be getting from him, that they're going to be donating to charity. But yeah, he's back. And what's even crazier is now Adidas is talking about possibly doing a shoe deal with Kyrie Irving. So maybe they're not so far away from their old Sig Heil ways. Okay, I don't want to say the actual word. I don't want to say the German N word, because, you know, who knows what YouTube's gonna do. Okay, but maybe they're not so far away from that. I don't know. Also too, I mean, I don't think like Kyrie Irving is like, you know, a piece of shit, and I don't think he dislikes you know, certain people of a certain religion. I don't actually think that. I think he was just trying to talk about his history. And it's a history that a lot of black people share. And I think really his issue, and I think the issue with Kanye, although Kanye was more brazen and kind of just disrespectful with it, but I think Kyrie and Kanye, their whole thing, their major problem is the fact that, you know, this is a classic case of like, you know, white people not listening to something that black people have been saying for years. I mean, there's been black Israelites for years, for decades. And even before the black Israelites existed, black people saw themselves as the true Israelites. I mean, you can kind of go back into like a lot of the Harlem Renaissance and all that type of stuff. And there's a lot of like writings and poems and stuff like about that, but also just, you know, biblical shit. I mean, everybody in the Bible was of a darker complexion. They were all black. Okay. So it would make sense that the first people, the first, you know, religion in the First Testament, you know, would also be, you know, black. That doesn't mean anybody of that religion today is not legitimately of that religion. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying history is history is history. And the 13th tribe most likely is not the 13th. It's most likely the first. But, you know, to each his own. So that's crazy. I'm just so happy about Kyrie. He's actually getting the deal, bro. He's actually getting the deal. And that, you know, in the fact that he's getting it almost makes me, I'm happy, but I'm also kind of upset because I'm like, fuck, like, maybe now that you're getting this, maybe you should have just stuck to your guns, because you weren't doing anything actually wrong, dude. You weren't doing anything actually wrong. Nobody was coming after Jeff Bezos for having that on his platform and anybody being able to purchase it and him making money off of it, actually making money off of monetary gain. Nobody was saying anything about that, but they have things to say about you, and you didn't even put it in a caption. You just literally posted it. I think that's a little bit much, you know. And obviously seeing from Kanye and how he actually stuck to his guns, you know, did his shit, stayed in the, you know, the penalty box for a while. And then they realized that they could not make it without him. And so brought him back, you know. Yeah, I just think like, you know, everybody, all these athletes, especially too, when it comes to like political stuff, you know, if you're going to be an athlete and you're going to be political, you know, then you, or just anybody who's of notoriety, if you're going to start stepping into the political realm that may or may not be so normal, I guess you could say, thinking like black people are the first Jews, all that type of stuff. No, those things aren't exactly mainstream. If you're not going to do mainstream stuff, I think you have to be willing to lose it all, truth be told, because that's the whole thing. You have all these amazing people back in the day, people like, obviously Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. We had like, Muhammad Ali. You had people like Jim Brown, rest in peace too. He passed away. And these people, yes, they said what they said, but also they stood by exactly what they said, and they weren't going to apologize. Like Muhammad Ali refused to go to the Vietnam War. That was a huge thing. And you know what, if they told him that he could never box again, I believe they did, try to stop him from boxing, and he kind of lost a couple of years, and that actually hurt his career. But I honestly believe, though, if they told him he could never box again, unless he changed his views, he would have stopped boxing, or would have, boxed in some like D League and just whooped everybody's ass. You know what I mean? Something like that. I think he would have went for that because he had that strong of conviction. If you're going to do those types of things, you have to have strong conviction. And even now, it's even easier for you to have strong conviction because, like, yes, there is the internet, so everybody's coming at you, sure, but there's a million different ways and platforms for you to still exist and still make your money. I mean, people were talking about like, oh, like if he loses this, he loses all his contracts. It's like, yeah, but he could also just start a podcast. You know what I mean? Nowadays, all you need is some sort of notoriety, and then you can make your own content, and then through that, you can have a living for the rest of your life and for your children's lives. Especially if you're someone like Kyrie Irving, like you're good. So, for you to kind of bite your tongue and then, say you're sorry when you don't believe that, I think is a little bit corny. You know what I mean? If you do believe that you're sorry, then yeah, I apologize. But if you don't believe that you're sorry and everything, and you're just doing it to get the bag, it's like there's a million bags. As you can see, there's a million bags. There's more bags. And Adidas and Puma are offering 2 of them. So, go for it. But, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. So, to each his own. Last thing I should be doing is critiquing what millionaires are doing with their millions. I am a broke ass nigga right now, so can't really talk out here. Lil Durk got his first number 2 on Billboard. I don't think if you guys, I don't know how many people are Lil Durk fans, but there was a lot of speculation about whether or not he was worth anything or not. There's a YouTube channel podcast called the Bootleg Kev Show, where he had a couple different rappers on, and Bootleg Kev, he's this dude, he's a funny guy, like pretty good content creator and stuff, great, good podcaster. He has some different rappers. He had on these 2 rappers. They were talking about Durk, and he said that Durk, he has no hits. He has no hits. Like, yeah, Durk's big in the street, but he has no hits. Nobody gives a fuck about Durk. He's not played on the radio. There's nothing that you can find of his on the charts and da-da-da. And he has pull and like the hood, but that's not the end all be all. And that's not what makes you a legend, And, he's right. And he was like, especially with no features, like, just him, and he's absolutely right. And then obviously, he comes out with this new song with J. Cole, which, yes, is still a feature. But to get to number 2, that was kind of like, in your face, Bootleg Kev. So, shout out to Lil Durk. I will say it's a great song, super catchy, all my life. I like it. It's one of those songs where you listen to it and you're like, yeah, this is definitely getting played on the radio. It's sort of like his like version of We Are the World. There's like little kids singing in it and shit. And like whenever there's little kids singing in a song, it's going to be a hit. It has to be a hit. It's a rule that it has to be a hit, by law, But I will say though, like J. Cole carried the entire song though. It was a little much. Like, I love this song. I listen to it all the time. Honestly, I pretty much listen to it like every day for the last like week. I'll listen to it once a day at least. It comes in the playlist, but still, I'll like choose it. It's a good song, but it's one of those things. It's like, you can't even really call that a Durk song. Like, yes, technically it's on his album, but you can't really even call that a Durk song. J. Cole literally started and finished it. Dog, it's his song, bro. Like, you honestly didn't even need Lil Durk's verse in it to make it a song. Like, that's how much of J. Cole's song it was. And can we just talk about how J. Cole has just been killing it? Like, I've been a fan of his since the warm up and everything. So I've been there. The warm up, Friday Night Lights. He's been a murderer, but what I've especially liked about him is actually how people downplay him and underrate him, and how recently in these last few years, I feel like the last 5 years, his features have just been nuts. And he's just become this undeniable force in the hip hop game, you know, so much so that I will say, I feel like he's even kind of eclipsing Kendrick right now. If I'm being real, like there was a time where like I liked J. Cole more than Kendrick, but niggas would have looked at me like I was insane if I actually said that. Now it's gotten to the point where like he's been missing. And he, number one, he hasn't been putting that much stuff out. Number two, the stuff that he is putting out hasn't been that great. It's been good. It's been solid, but it's not amazing. And number three, J. Cole has been out here this whole time putting out tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of material, and it's all been amazing. It's all been great. And so eventually, like, you know, it used to be the top three, right? That was always the vibe. The top three. And it used to be like Drake, Kendrick, J. Cole. I honestly kind of think J. Cole's making it to number two, especially after Kendrick did that whack ass verse on Beyonce song. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, like, come on, bro. Like, this is whatever. like Cole's been dropping so much shit. I mean, Cole was dropping, what is that song with Bia, London? He dropped that shit, murked it. He just did this, murked it, you know, All My Life. He did 21 Savage a lot, murked it. Like, bro, like you can't put him on a song and expect to beat him. Like, that's how good this nigga is, bro. You know? He's one of the only rappers that he'll get on a song with JID and out rap JID. You know what I mean? Because I hear a lot of people be like, oh, I think actually JID is better than J. Cole. And I understand that. There's actually an argument to be made. But I will say, whenever they're both on the song, this nigga has a nicer verse than JID. Okay? So I think that brings him up to number two. You know, yeah, it's just crazy to see, man. It's crazy to see his trajectory. And like, you said, like, dudes like that, man, are such an inspiration. Like, and that's what I kind of mean with like sticking to your guns. Not, you know, even when I was talking about Kyrie Irving, like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about, anti, or like fringe views or any stuff like that or anything, but just sticking to your guns of who you are and just keep hitting that shit. You know, that's the reason I still do this podcast, bro. Like, sometimes I have great views, sometimes I have no views. But I stick to the guns of who I am, and I'm still here. And eventually, something will shine through. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm still proud of myself because I did something that I actually like doing. And it's a form of self-expression, you know what I mean? So regardless. And that's kind of, I guess, encapsulating everything that I've been talking about, right? In creativity, and basically how like creativity is a business, but it's the most human thing in the world. It's like, yeah, there's some people who get rich off of it, but it doesn't really matter. It matters if it's for you and if you actually like doing it, and does it, fill something within you. So keep that in mind, guys. Just know, like, whatever you're doing out there, people may not be recognizing it. People may not even be feeling it like that, bro. People may be feeling it, but think that 10 other niggas are better than you. But as long as you enjoy what you're doing and your mind is working and improving and trying to build more things, you're not going in the wrong direction. Sometimes when you move forward, you stumble, but as long as you get back up, you'll be okay. And that has been episode 47 of the False Prophets podcast. I'm your host, Phil Risden. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.